us collecting questions that we thought would be interesting. And so so we not that long, like 2 weeks ago, we launched the app both on Android and iPhone.
Nice. Oh wow! Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's very recent.
Yeah, very recent. Just
wonderful.
Yeah, we need to do some fixes to it. I mean, it works, but there's some clunky things about it, and then people don't know yet how. I mean, people don't know yet how to use it, so like it doesn't matter. But it works for the most part. It's great. So you just need to kind of guide people a little bit into how to use it. So, and to answer your question about what kind of questions, it's like 800 plus questions on the app, and they're organized by category. So you can pick a category, and you know what? The other day we were at work, and I'm like, we were having drinks after work, and so I whipped out the app and so, hey, look, start asking. Let's do some questions asking, and it was great because it really kind of inspired a great conversation. But there's this category, we called it, what did we call that? See, I should know this, the category name.
Is it like juicy or something?
Juicy, that's a juicy category. Thank you, right in my mind. And I didn't think much about it, but there were some, and somebody said, this is not juicy, this is raunchy. So that's how and there's also some light, like easy, there's easy categories, there's deep, and we have some specific like descriptions of, like, deep is, you really have to,
I'm going to download it while you're talking about it. I want to see.
I gotta look at the names of the categories.
Well, we have deep, funny, daring, juicy, and easy.
Okay. So easy, self-explanatory, funny, self-explanatory, deep, funny. What's the other?
Well, we have easy, which is just kind of basic level questions. You know. Daring would be a little bit deeper, so you have to kind of look into yourself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool logo.
Do you guys want to,
Oh, you already have it? Oh, great.
This one.
Yeah, that's it. See, one thing that's not good right now, I mean, this is detail. See how this is the wrong, this and this should be the same color. It just looks kind of weird. So we have things that we need to fix. And
make the brand more cohesive aesthetically so people will see
so
that.
This should be orange too. And like this. This looks like a different thing to this, you know? There's stuff like that and some other couple things. Or like, for example, once you start playing, like the cards, based on the category you're in, the cards should have different colors. You know, here you have the categories. And so when you click on, for example, daring, the cards should have a different color, I think. So you can tell you're in a different place.
The difference between categories.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
a lot of people think when they want to answer this
them.
question, but you shouldn't. This is more for commenting, so we need to change this around a little bit. So there's little tweaks that we need to do.
Nice. I have a double major in acting and graphic and motion design, and I did some branding for a startup and have done logos and specialize in that type of thing. So it's nice hearing you talk about it and.
How like from the making of, the perspective from the making of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then of course it's interesting to see people use it because you realize, oh my God, I didn't even think about using it that way. So, yeah. Nice. You got a good one on. You got it.
What have you fantasized about stealing? I knew immediately what it would be.
Is this in the funny? What is this in the there? Oh, good. What is it?
There was a road sign in my old town. I actually put it on my bucket list, my life list, that I always wanted to steal the Hall of Fame road sign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
We had the National Wrestling Hall of Fame at Oklahoma State, and Hall of Fame Road was. I wanted it. I wanted it.
Did you do it?
I tried to actually, but it was too tall, and I stood on the top of my car and still couldn't reach it. I had someone with me too. We tried to use something to put underneath it and then hit it with a hammer, still couldn't get it. We bent it halfway over, tried digging the dirt from around it, and it just was hanging off to the side. We weren't successful.
Maybe better.
True.
Okay, question. How would you go to the next question?
I would want to swipe.
Okay.
Or tap the edge.
Yeah, swiping is the way to do it.
Copy.
Do you think tapping, we should make it also tap, so we tap and it does the same? Right now it's swipe.
It would be nice to have both.
Okay. Yeah.
What do you think? Usually tap or swipe? I am mixing all my words together today.
Swipe, yeah, for sure.
Cool. I do like when they have signifier dots, though.
Yeah, that could be a way to, or like a little arrows, you mean?
Lazy way.
Yeah, and this is what, like, when people are used to that up and down thing, like if you're on YouTube and you want to indicate whether you like or not like a video, it's also up and down.
So is this like Pandora, where it groups questions on the ones that you rate more highly? And
We're not there yet, but that's where we want to go, where it would be great for us to have enough input from people where we know, like 80% of the people don't like these questions. Let's just kind of phase them out from the app. Or these are the questions that people really love. And then you can also, over time, you can start weighting the questions that people love more. So as people love questions, they show up more often. But that technology is not there yet, but that's okay.
Did you do any research on curiosity before creating this?
On the word curiosity?
I know I've heard people, I haven't read them myself, but I have been told by others that I should read books about curiosity because there are apparently a lot of books psychologically based around curiosity and curious people in general. And I don't know any of the statistics and I don't have that knowledge, but I know they exist.
So it's interesting that you say that because I'm going through this course right now. And it's a course that has to do with flow, and flow is actually a term that is quite established in medical, in sports and all kinds of fields. And it's flow is a state where you have all kinds of endorphins and other chemicals that are being flooded into your brain and make it so you can do things that you can normally not accomplish, or you can make associations that you normally don't have. And so there's a particular process that you can go through to get yourself into a flow state. And so I'm really interested in this, and the reason why this ties into what you were just asking there is because one of the early things you need to figure out is, what are you curious about? Because curiosity leads into passion. But it's a way to figure out, what are you passionate about? A different way of asking is, what are you curious about? It's sort of like early phases of passion. Before you have a passion, you might have become curious about it. It's just like, hey, what is this? And you start to tinker with it. And as you tinker with it, it goes from a curiosity into a passion. And then, of course, with the flow states, in order to be able to access these flow states, one of the big things is you're passionate about it. Because passion gives you a certain focus that you need in order to slip into that flow state. So, I don't know where we got on this, but that's just
Curiosity.
So you're also interested in the psychology of curiosity itself and finding the flow, or what drew you to research this flow, or did it fall into your lap and you decided, I need more of this in my life?
The reason I got curious in this whole flow thing is because I'm generally curious about living a life that is interesting and engaging. And so, I used to live a very artistic lifestyle, and then I moved into a much more corporate lifestyle, and now I'm kind of like, all right, fine, I've done enough corporate lifestyle, I want to get back to this other lifestyle.
Nice.
And so I need to do a little work, because if you do corporate for a while, you move away from passion. I mean, you get security, and you get financial stability, and you have a tendency to lose passion and calling and things that really turn you on. And so I've kind of first I was like, I don't care at all about this money thing. And then after a while, this money thing had to be figured out. So I finally figured out the money thing, and now I'm like, all right, good. Now I need to combine things. So that's kind of how I got into this whole, and there's this course I'm doing with this guy, Stephen Kotler is his name, and he studied all these athletes that do extreme sports, and how do they do this, and why have there been such incredible advancements in extreme sports? And like we're talking, these guys that do massive waves, like massive, gigantic surfing, for example, or these snowboarders that jump over 50 feet things, and, you know, like how did this sport go from what it was let's say 20 years ago to what it is today? It's completely reinvented, you know, and so a lot of that has to do with these guys putting themselves into a state where they can access abilities that they normally don't have. Involves a lot of risks, and so this guy has kind of like investigated and researched that stuff, and so the whole thing is the reason why I'm interested in is because it tries to help you get into that similar state without having to risk your life, essentially. You know? So, yeah.
But would it then translate into physical movement if you created a state of flow in one category that might solely be mental for some stationary activity, but then if you're in that state of flow, would it also translate if you stood up and refocused on a different category?
I'm not sure. I don't know yet because I haven't gone far enough into this. It's a course. It's a course you can do online. So I'm really just in the early stages. I don't know if, in other words, could you basically, you're in a flow state. You surf some crazy wave. You're going back on shore. Do you still have flow state that you can apply in another area? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, I get it. Can you basically borrow this flow and apply it elsewhere? I'm not sure. I have a feeling you start to no, actually yes. I don't know enough about it to really kind of tell you what I've learned there, but they've hinted towards the idea that this ability to get into a flow state has creates permanent changes to, and hopefully I'm not misquoting. I think there's some permanence in this mindset and flow state that you borrow and apply elsewhere.
With the neural pathways that you create by thinking about something repetitively, correct?
Yeah. Now there are specific chemical reactions that happen when you put yourself in when, for example, when you have this intense focus, and you can do this intense focus, you can get in this flow state not just by risking your life, from what I've learned there, but also, yeah. Well, risking your life is a great way to do it because because it forces you to, because of survival is at stake, you automatically start really focusing on something because your life is at stake. Now, the trick is, if it's so tremendous that it overwhelms you, you can also freeze up. And then you can get into the, like for example, let's say a car comes at you and you just freeze up and you don't jump out of the way, you actually just stay put. A deer does that. Deer sometimes when they see the headlight and the car's coming, they freeze. Instead of jumping away, they freeze up. And interestingly enough, humans seem to be, I know more than I thought about this.
That's a great thing.
Yeah. So humans apparently seem to be, I'm not sure if there's other animals, but humans seem to be uniquely capable of kind of transmuting fear into excitement or engagement. And animals, and the example that Steve Kotler listed was, so a dog is excited about something, or he sees something down there and starts running off, and like, what the fuck, goes over there. And then he gets scared and he runs back. So excitement and interest turns into fear. Animals apparently have, it's either this or that. And humans have this like particular...
the fight or flight.
Yes, but we can kind of like, we have a more sophisticated system, and so we are able to play with it and harness the benefits that this intense state can give us. Ability, for example, certain chemicals that get released give you the ability to, for example, make connections from parts of the brain that are usually not talking to each other, and so therefore you make unique decisions that nobody else has done before. So it's a great example, and I'll stop soon. I'll stop in a second, but just this example from Laird Hamilton. Have you heard of
Laird Hamilton, the surfer?
Yeah, surfer.
Yeah, he's great.
So they heard of this wave they knew about this wave formation that's way out there, and you know, they came up with this whole thing about getting towed into a wave, you know, and so there's this. So they wanted to try this new area, and they had like insane waves there, and what happened was, it was not only were there insane waves, but these two waves happened to come together and create even a bigger wave. And so they were about to tow him into this wave, and the tower guy, all the other surfers who were around, said, "Don't go in it," but he was already in it. And it was such a gigantic wave that it started to, if I understood it correctly, suck him up. You know, it's you know, usually kind of go down, but there's so much draft, I guess, or current towards the upper part of the wave that it started to pull him up, and he did this move where if you get too far up here, you probably start falling off the thing, and then I don't know if you survive. And so in this flow state that he was in, he was able to do this move where he grabbed, I couldn't quite understand it because it was on audio tape, but he grabbed the board in a certain way that kind of basically saved his ass. So it was sort of like this creative move that you do that you haven't learned it. It just kind of came. It was inspiration. And so part of that flow state is the ability to kind of draw and do stuff that you can normally never do. So
that's so beautiful. I often chase that feeling because when I get in situations that I can't plan for, where there's an emergency happening or someone else needs a calm person around to help a situation and like eradicate the danger there, I love that it turns into this this calm, slow motion scene. And it's hard for me to create that because I'm very ADHD and hyper and always want to be moving. But if I see something, my brain just goes into this like slow-mo, and I feel so at peace with everything that I can't manufacture that unless the situation happens.
It sounds like that state or something similar.
It feels so good.
Yeah. Sounds like it's it needs to. So how do you get your brain to sink into that?
That's a great question. I'm trying to figure that out. Because I guess 2 times that it's happened, I have been witnessing motorcycle wrecks. Once.
Motorcycle accidents?
Yes. Yeah. And one of them I couldn't really do anything about. There was a man who laid his bike over and was dying in the canyon, and I was like 3rd person on the scene. And then, but you know, I could tell the distinct change and feeling in like the way that I was processing information and like how I perceived time. And then the second was a couple months ago, my ex-boyfriend and I were in my car, and I was heading to my second job, and a girl had a motorcycle accident in the middle of a busy intersection. So we just like threw my car in park, ran out there, and like he grabbed the bike and I grabbed the girl, and it was just, you know, it just worked. Like you don't think about it, you just take action, and you like make sure that you take the danger out of the situation to the best of your ability. But I can't figure out how to like achieve that slowness without the situation already being slightly perilous.
So these are intense situations, right? And so I think there probably needs to be a certain amount of intensity that draws you in.
But I should be able to find a way to create that for myself if it exists.
Yeah. So maybe that brings us back to the beginning of that conversation about passion or interests, where if you dial into something that you're just really interested in, and I think it requires work. You have to kind of, I mean, so for example, in this course I need to come up with 25 things that I'm curious about, and so it's actually a lot. There's a lot of things. I'm like, really 20. I kind of stalled out around 12, 13. I'm like, oh my God, I got it. And I'm supposed to do the next course tonight, and so I still haven't my 25. So, but I see why that matters, because that's probably like the early kind of the early things that I'm curious about this, and then curiosity, as you start kind of digging into it, becomes a passion. And then, have you guys become like experienced in? Is there an area that you guys are experienced in that you feel competent?
I do this with stunt performing, so the action bit is particularly interesting to me. I really love stunts because I get to mix fighting and weaponry are like my focus of that, but incorporating different kinds of movement together to try to achieve that flow state. I know that the people that I'm around are so talented, and so many of them are so much better than me at it, and have this like natural ability that I don't have. But I do notice that the more that I work on it, and the more I focus on it, and continue learning things, the more I can achieve progress in my process, and like I'm better able to like work with and control the speed, for example, or my timing and my interaction with different materials. And
so it's basically doing or stunts essentially.
Yeah, stunts and fighting.
That's kind of pretty much, it's kind of very similar to getting on a huge wave, and you could get hurt. How about you, Sarabi?
Shoot. I mean, right now I've just been kind of like with work and being in like the food industry or like customer service. Like I guess if there was a problem with like, I don't know, a customer or something like that, then I would be the one that was mostly calm to resolve it the best way I could. I mean, lately that's just kind of been like my surrounding work and making sure everyone is having a good time and not having any conflicts while eating. But yeah, lately no, nothing.
So you think like this situation where, I mean, this kind of job is stressful because people are demanding, or then this guy gets pissed. So
yeah, for example, we're already on our last hour, and someone had got food to go. They came back and they said, "Hey, I got a double burger and I only got a single, and I want my food." And I'm like, okay, I'll go get, I'll make that a double, make sure that, we charge them properly. And a couple of my coworkers were being loud about, like, oh, these people are coming in last minute, well, we need to close. Or for example, like this guy that wants to double, one guy said, oh, he's just being difficult. And that customer heard that. So immediately I was like, I go back out and I'm like, I'm very sorry, sir. I'm very sorry, sir. We're working on your double right now. We're making it as fresh as possible, and it'll be right out. Gave him a full refund, and he was happy, and he was like, I really appreciate how you handled this, and
wow.
It's really unfortunate that he said that. And I'm like, yes, everyone's just really tired, but here's your full refund. Here's your food. Just enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm very, very sorry. And so. Yeah, I just like, I'm a supervisor there, so I have to like take that position and make sure that it's done the best way, because customers is like first,
So is there a passion or is there like an interest around being in such a situation? Or is there
I mean, it is what it is right now for me. So I'm just doing it. I know I'm good at it, and until I find something different that I can pursue, so far I know that I can provide more for like the company and like do more. It's just, I don't think I want to. I'm still trying to like seek out something else.
You don't want to what?
Be with that, like the customer service, or like stay in that kind of like field of business. Like, but I kind of feel stuck because I haven't been reaching or seeking out anything different, or kind of getting out of my comfort zone, or nothing's really come by where it's got my interest or made me curious just yet. I just kind of been stuck in this hustle of just making money and working 40 hours a week, and just providing for my mother and my brother, and that's it. Like that's lately what's been for me.
That's such a valuable skill that you have, though, because it's hard enough for like each person to manage their own emotions, and for you to have the responsibility of putting all of your emotions aside and having to work with strangers who you don't know who those people are or how they're going to react. So you have to like pretty much immediately figure that out, and then figure out how to control the situation and keep it positive. That's a huge skill, and I feel like that'll be good for you translating into any industry or whatever kind of thing makes you happy. A lot of people can't even do that for themselves.
No, for sure. Yeah.
But remember that that place out there in the desert you told me about?
The
The Integratron.
Yes.
So keep that in mind, the Integratron, and then remember this book I gave you with the patterns? There's something there that I think is that there's passion, or there's certainly curiosity there.
Yes.
That feels very authentic on your part. So what about that whole area? What's going on there? What's that about?
The whole Integratron place, first off, like, I mean, since it's built on these ley lines that create this like energy vortex, I mean, it recharges your body, or like it does such a beautiful thing to like the human body, and and then I guess like those images that in that book, it reminded me of the Integratron because I remember, well, actually, so I remember laying down in the Integratron and I did take, I think, a very small dosage of shrooms, and then I went there and I would look up and it's 100% made out of wood, and I could see like the wood kind of like moving, and like it would shape into these kind of like patterns, and like I don't know, like kind of like sacred geometry patterns, and that seeing that book like really like put me back in like the Integratron and like really being there. But yeah, I mean, trying to figure out that book more and like seeing how I can be more into it and passionate about it. I mean, I would love to just sketch out a lot of those drawings, really, because I used to be more of a visual drawer and just draw out something I would see, and I would give it my own little twist on it, little touch.
So what is a ley line? Is this a line you physically
So ley lines are just like, they're all around the world, all around the world, and there's multiple of them. And some of them, there's certain places in the world where they cross. Like for example, like they're more of like sacred spots. So like the pyramids are built on top of them. Like that's the main one that I know.
There's like all sorts of other things too, like the temple. Or
there's temples, there's pyramids. Yeah, and it's just these ley lines just create this like energy vortex of some sort. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's a very beautiful place.
So, what do you think is interesting you about these things?
I think it's more of like a deep down spiritual awareness of like what like the body and the mind is capable of, and what you can just create and manifest. And like, I don't know, I guess it makes me interested or curious about it because I want to start to learn like, okay, how can I be more in tune, or like what is it that I need to do to just feel more grounded, or just feel more grounded. And I believe like psychedelics can help you with that, and I've definitely been interested in shrooms. I haven't done enough to where it's really like made a big impact in me yet. I'm just kind of waiting for the right time to do that and like put myself in the position, in a safe position, obviously. Like, like I would maybe go back to Integratron and do it there, or somewhere in nature, like Yosemite or something like that, just to feel more out of this like society and this like city. Like it just,
So you're kind of allowing yourself to be a vessel to connect to these higher forms of energy and experience what they have to offer.
Yeah, I'm definitely aware of it. I haven't put the actions though. I haven't put my foot down. I haven't done the work, but I'm aware of it, and I keep telling myself. And like for example today, like this is another reminder of like, okay, Sarabi, let's do it. Come on. So yeah, so I just I need to find the right moment to like, okay, just write stuff down and start planning something. Like I know that that's what I need to do. It's crazy how the world and the work can like get you wrapped up, but there's no excuses. I just have to have that willpower, that determination, and I'm trying to like surround myself with people that are that way, people that I look up to, or that have those attributes that I look up to. So yeah, I'm just trying to seek that really as well.
You seem like a great person because it sounds like you use a lot of your natural energy to take care of others and make sure that they're doing well. Like I know you said you do that for your little brother, so you're giving him like a lot of love and energy and extra love, and it can be hard to recharge. So what are different ways that you're learning to recharge yourself that make you feel like you're
ways that I'm going to a sensory deprivation tank, float lab. I feel like I've done that, and that's definitely been a way to like kind of just recharge. I've been trying to do it at least once a month because it's like 2 hours and it's like $40 in like Venice. Just being able to float and kind of just not feel anything and see what's really in my mind and see what I need to like face in a way. But besides doing that, it's just going on long walks with my Jordan, my pit bull, and hiking with him, really. And that's pretty much it, and sleeping a lot.
Have you tried the float tanks?
I did it once.
What was your experience?
It's been a while. You know, I've basically tried to. I've been meditating now for a while, and I wanted to kind of see what happens if you meditate, but you're in that thing. What I remembered was that the water is weird because it's so gooey. It's like gooey. It's so salty. Yeah, it's gooey. It's
salt and mineral. Yeah,
so
it definitely
it's
feels
kind of weird.
Like the Dead Sea?
I don't know.
That's how I envision it.
Yeah. So, and it's been too long. I didn't walk away with like, wow, I gotta do this again. But I'm not saying it's because it's not the right thing. I'm just, I don't know, maybe I need to do it again. But it didn't draw me back, I guess.
You have to do it on like edibles.
Yeah, maybe.
That's a joke.
Give yourself an extra push.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with psychedelics, Talyn?
Not particularly. I tried mushrooms one time, and in my experience, I talked to God, was reborn as a baby dragon princess, and saw shapes and colors all morph into each other, and vibrations of many things, and I experienced new colors, and I could see like auras around my dog and my roommate's dog, and see like how to move the light around with them by what I was doing and saying, and their reactions to me would like change the colors around their shapes. So that was really fun to play with. And then I started doing a lot of like handstands and whatnot, and I started to go into a negative place. So I actually called my father, and my mom answered. They were asleep in bed. And I said, Mom, I just took mushrooms, and I think I'm dying, and I need to talk to Dad. And she sat up in bed, and she goes, Jonathan, you're going to want to sit up for this. And my dad's like, are you somewhere safe? Okay. And then he told me that I needed to lay down and listen to some jazz or watch Fantasia. And that went well. So it turned out to be a great experience for me. And I felt so happy. I often get sad, and I was so like incredibly happy and confident for like a solid 6 months after that. Wow. It really like boosted my mood and energy.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
What made you not want to go back? After, I mean, 6 months of happiness from one trip. It sounds like a good return on your money.
It was great. I've really been trying to achieve feelings of that without substances, and like recreate that, but I haven't been able to in most areas. I'm not opposed to doing mushrooms again, but I just feel like I want it to be the right time and with the right people and in the right environment. And I just want it to like call to me and be the proper thing that's like best for the situation.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What are some of your experiences? Have you taken mushrooms?
Yeah, I've done mushrooms twice, I think. It's good. I mean, I similarly to sarabi, I don't think I've gone. So the last time I remember was an interesting experience because I felt there was other people there, and I felt really more of having a supportive role. So I was more kind of like holding space and sort of being in that mode. But it was really great too. What I haven't done is I've been afraid of really kind of losing myself. And I feel like I need to do that. To see, I think it's a great practice I see it as a good practice of figuring out what happens when we no longer are alive. And get comfortable with the fact that there's no more body attached to our consciousness, and And I think mushroom is one way to kind of practice it, you know, because you get to kind of go there, but you come back and you're like, oh my God, that went not so well. Same with ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is interesting. I have a lot more experience doing ayahuasca, and it has a similarity in that way, in that you sort of can you leave your body and you get sort of like, where is my body? I don't have a body. And of course that usually kind of causes panic if you're not used to it, and you're learning like, no, that's okay, I don't have a body, but I'm here. Well, we're here. Yeah, you know, it's just there in your consciousness. And I feel that I can see that this could be very similar to when you're dying, and you're a consciousness, and you can move places and without a body. So yeah, I see it as an interesting way of practicing no longer being here physically.
So you have thought about accepting death, and if you're comfortable with that, how do you perceive how you will react when it's your time to die in this physical body? Yeah,
I think this is super. I find it like one of the most important things to figure out. And the reason, this is not original thought. I think this is thought that came into my brain through Buddhist writings. They are very interested in understanding how to die properly, so to speak, because they feel like in the process of dying, you know, huge opportunities open up. You know, they believe in reincarnation. So, and they believe you can really ascend, or you can just, for the most part, people end up being fearful, and when they're fearful, they're just starting to grasp, like a sinking, like a person who's sinking or drowning. You know, you just start to grasp whatever you can grasp, and in the process of grasping, you just grasp any old life, and that just happens to be there. Or you can not grasp and realize, oh, everything is fine, and you learn to navigate through this brand new environment that you're not accustomed to, but you know, you have to, similar to back what we talked about earlier with these guys who ride these crazy waves, learn how to deal with your fear, and you know, learn how to calm that fear and learn how to navigate. And so I think these psychedelics have one of their gifts are that you get to travel temporarily into that space. I mean, you eventually come back, but you get more and more familiar with another environment where your body and your ego kind of melt away, and you're left with your consciousness. And yeah, and then you know how they have this whole concept of, you know, here being in the physical world, to manifest things takes time. So let's say you want to accomplish something. You have to want to accomplish this for a while until it starts manifesting, right? Every day, like, I need to work on this, you know, and little by little, it starts to manifest. And before you know it, it's like, wow, it's here. So, which is great, because we're not that skilled at creating. Meaning, we have a lot of stupid things that we also think in our head. And
absolutely.
Thank God they don't just manifest very quickly.
Yes.
Right? We can go like, that's not a great idea. And so, from how I see this, once we no longer have it's a physical body that slows this whole process down. Because we have to drag our physicality through our days, right? And when we don't have a physical body anymore, things go lightning fast, because everything goes as fast as a thought. The thought takes you there. And so you have to become much more sophisticated in holding the right thoughts. And so I think this medicine, let's call it medicine, helps you practice.
That's really beautiful. That's one of the things that stuck with me from doing mushrooms that time, is I became comfortable with the idea of death and accepted it, and have not been afraid of death since then. I wasn't consciously afraid of it before that, but I feel okay with the thought, and it hasn't bothered me even in dangerous situations since I did mushrooms for the first time. So that did feel like a huge weight was taken off just from experiencing a bit of what you were talking about. Did you have any thoughts of death when you've done shrooms? And like,
no, it was for the amount that I've done, it's only been more of a vibration, a more central like feeling, like especially like when I did it in the Integratron, there was like already a strong vibration, so the Integratron kind of like amplified what I was already feeling. So yeah, I mean, I want to do shrooms enough where it's like not just the body, it's like also the mind as well.
So Integratron is a place?
Yeah, it's a place. So it's like above Joshua Tree in Landers, California. And it's just this wooden dome, 100% made out of wood, built on top of these light lines. And yeah, I think it's like $20 to $30 to get in there. Yeah, on weekends I think it's a little bit more. Yeah, but it's nice. It's like an hour long little thing. They play sound bowls as well. Play with the sound bowls.
I love those.
Yeah, that was actually the first time I ever did a sound bath too. So that was really nice. Yeah.
Have you? Do you have a list of different places that you want to go experience?
I mean, I definitely have some ideas of some places. I mean, I want to go to Bali. I'd love to just go. I mean, anywhere really. I want to go back to Europe. I've been to London, so. Everywhere around Europe, like, yeah, if I had an opportunity to go anywhere and everywhere, I would definitely take it. But Egypt would be really nice, for sure. But
does anybody have a goal that they're postponing?
A goal
intentionally?
Could be intentional or unintentional. Any goal that you're postponing?
I guess one of my goals was to finish the Jordan Peterson self-authoring program, and I've definitely like gone on and off with that way too much. I guess I would like kind of like slightly beat myself up for not knowing well grammar or like typing it, because you're typing, and one of the things he says is like, don't worry about that stuff, just type, just go away. But sometimes I was like really bad at it, where it's like, okay, what am I really saying? Like I wanted to go back and fix it to make it just clear to myself. Yeah, so I guess that was just like one goal, one short-term goal was to finish this, because the goal of the program is to kind of help you figure out what you're passionate about or like what you're like interested in and stuff like that. So yeah, so it was just one little one.
So are you halfway through and you kind of stopped, or are you starting, or what's the deal?
I'm right. So he has different sections. There's like the past, the present, and the future. And right now, I'm in the present. So there's like, I forget how many.
And you have to write about your past, and then your present, and then
future.
your future.
Yeah. Okay. So you can start anywhere, and it's just a series of questions, and you just write about them. So I've maybe not even halfway in the present right now. Okay. So yeah, that's.
So you're like in the middle somewhere?
So in the middle somewhere, yeah.
And how long does this thing take, this whole course?
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard it, how long it actually takes, or how long it is really. I mean, Tony, you know a little bit more about it.
I think it's like 3 hours per section, and you get like, 5-6 sections, something like that. That's just an estimated time. You can go into it more or less.
Yeah.
So 9 hours total?
Sure, yeah, I guess so, yeah. So there'd be moments where I get in and I feel a flow, and then I get stuck. And then I would purposely distract myself with something else. So, or there was a question that kind of hit me really deeply and kind of like put me in a little like, not negative state of mind, but it gave me flashbacks of certain things that have happened in my past. So I just kind of like didn't want to think about it. So I just wanted to go think about something else. So, I mean, everyone has their own baggage and stuff like that, and they just kind of, yeah, like, I feel like they need to seek like a therapist and some like professional like feedback and talk it out professionally, because I'm very open. Like I can talk about the things that I've been through, but what I get back, is it great or is it bad? No, I mean it's okay. It is what it is, but it's not really what I need. Really,
it's so hard rewiring those triggers.
Yeah, definitely.
The old triggers. You mean the old stuff that happened that's still bothering you?
Yeah, and some, I mean, at least in my experience, I'm not conscious of until it's hit, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, how can I identify why I had an emotional reaction to that, and how can I change that thought process to disengage the emotion from that so it doesn't happen in the future?
Yeah.
That's something that I'm working on.
For sure.
Disengaging between what's happened and
taking the negative emotions out of previous experiences that trigger me?
So there's this course I started. I didn't finish it, but it was a good course. And in that course, it totally talks about this whole concept of things that happen. It kind of is perfectly how you said it. And then you stumble upon it in a completely different way. You're studying the Jordan Peterson thing, and all of a sudden you kind of get repulsed and you kind of move on, and you basically it still is impacting your life in negative ways, because you now can finish this thing. Probably could have finished this in a couple days, and it's still there. Yeah. And so they have this interesting process where you go back to what happened, and you retell the story of what happened, and then very quickly you kind of start mixing in the story, your own story. In other words, this is what happened, this is what this person said, this is what this person has done, actions, very specific things that are sort of like monolithic in its way. There's that. But then there's also your story that emerged from what happened there. You see how these are kind of two different things? There's what happened, and then there's the story that you've created around what happened. And those are often separate items. And what the story that you've taken from that event ends up carrying on for years. And it's and it basically their course is basically you go back to that moment and go like, all right, this is what happened. This is a story that I've developed based on what happened, but that's not what happened. So this one lady came up. She was really furious about. The director there, and because he was a little brisk sometimes, or kind of cut people off. And she went up. She wanted to say something, and she went up. And basically, she didn't talk about herself. She ended up talking about the fact that she thinks this guy is rude and not respectful, etc., etc. And luckily, this guy didn't take it personally, and he started to ask her question. And what came out is that this woman is having very negative feelings about men, because her experience with men have been that men are chauvinistic and I don't know the specifics, but it was so great because in that process they got back to that moment where she developed these thoughts around why. And it's funny because there she came up about she was frustrated about somebody else who she felt was dissed, but it really ended up being about her being triggered because of an old story of hers. And so it was really kind of, it reminded me a little bit of what you were just describing there, like something that happened and the story around, the stories that we create and carry around with us, put in our backpack. And we have a heavy backpack that we carry around our stories, and they become our identity, and it's heavy and it's burdensome.
We accidentally project those onto other people and then create the self-fulfilling prophecy. And
you had a story, Tony. You had a question for us. What was Sarabi answered it, but the rest of us didn't.
Do you have something you're postponing?
Yeah, that's right. Postponing. That's what I know what you're saying.
Does anyone else have a talent? Do you have a goal or anything you like?
Oh man, I have the issue of making too many, so I keep adding them to the list before I finish one, and then I end up popping around to a lot of different ones and doing them bit by bit, but then a lot less gets accomplished in the long run if it's just things I'm doing for myself. So I have a lot of passion projects that are my goals that I've started, but haven't been able to finish yet. That being said, I do have more short-term goals that I am still finishing, so I'm being productive, but I have too many ADHD ideas. I'm not saying all of them are good, but they exist. What about you?
Am I postponing things? I am, of course, I'm postponing things. I'm trying to really get good at, I think this is lately my trip of getting really good at not postponing things that are really important. And that's why I have a couple of programs that are like, this program I was just telling you about separating what happened to the story. This is one course. It ended up not being the right course for me. And now I'm doing this other thing with this this whole thing about getting into the flow. So I'm trying to kind of, it's interesting because I'm no longer 20. And so when you're 20, time doesn't matter. You have so much time. And I'm 55, and so I'm like, maybe another 20 summers I get to live, maybe another 25 summers, maybe 30 if I'm lucky. That's not that many, right? 20 summers. And so it's I find it helpful to get older because you're like, oh, I gotta start. At some point it's over, and at some point I don't have the energy anymore to do it. So I gotta get going, and so it's helpful. It's helpful that I'm older because I'm like, now, not in 5 years. Now is the time. So I'm trying to really kind of get on with it and do things that I care about. I really kind of don't want to die and go like, why didn't I? I really kind of am a little terrorized is maybe too big of a word, but kind of concerned. I would like to not be terrorized or have like big misgivings about why didn't you not do this, and now it's too late, and now it's over.
What's your biggest regret, would you say?
If somebody has an answer, I should go. I have to think about it.
I've decided that even if I initially want to say I have regrets, I want to rewire that and say that I don't, because I can't do anything about them. So I'm of the mentality that, like, regardless of what I've done, it's brought me to this specific place in time for a certain reason, and I'm going to focus on that. And I'm enjoying that. That makes me feel a lot better about any decisions that I make. And I'm enjoying focusing on the present and making goals for the future and hoping that I can manifest those by trying to stay more continually present, which is a big challenge for me. Do you have a hard time staying present, or do you feel like you're able to do that a lot for yourself?
Hard time staying present. I mean, I guess I'm doing the things that I'm getting paid for. So like for work, I can go do that. Being present.
For example, when you're here,
yes.
But while you're here, there's 500 conversations are going on up here too. So in other words, in some way, you're actually not here. It's still like a little bit here, but you also a big part is happening not here. You're not present essentially. Yeah. You're not there listening. Your thoughts are going. Is that what you meant? Talyn?
Yes.
No, I definitely do feel present, but I feel like if I were under the influence of like cannabis, then that would be a whole different thing. But no, I can still be able to I'm definitely more. I can be present. I'm listening to you guys and can think of like, okay, what am I gonna say next, or how does that make me feel, or how can I relate, or do I agree with what you're saying? And I 100% agree with what you were saying about regrets and how you want to like switch like the perception of it and not really like feel like you regret anything and just kind of accept it for what it is. And all right, you're without those things that happen, then you wouldn't be here, or you're here now. So you got to just live in the moment, just understand that it's all gonna be okay. Like as long as you love yourself, right? As long as you have you believe in yourself in a sense.
Yeah. Now, you did say earlier, I heard you say that you weren't putting things out or finishing the writing because you had a feeling that it would be bad or you weren't good enough at a certain element of it. And so I just want to make sure that I point out to you that nothing you do is bad and you're amazing.
Thank you.
And I just wish that I had someone to also tell me that, to like keep creating and like keep moving forward, and that nothing is really bad if it's getting done. Because I can be really self-deprecating too. That's one of the main things that I struggle with. I'm like always beating myself up. So little by little, I'm taking these like resources that friends are putting out there for me, and then learning to do that less and less. And I want to be able to like consciously share that.
Definitely.
So thank you for doing that for me right now.
Thank you.
Cool. How often do you feel present?
Do you feel like you've been able to increase the percentage of time you're present with age or the work?
And now I think I've been meditating now for a long time, and I think it's really helpful. It's helpful to kind of, it's a similar space in a way. Listening to somebody and meditating is like in a way similar, because meditating, well, my type of meditation is vipassana, which means you're paying attention to your breath. And so when somebody's talking, well, you're paying attention to what they're talking. So you get better at paying attention to that one thing that's happening. And your brain has less of capacity of, but later on I need to go, don't forget, I need to go get shopping. The thing
oh no!
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, did I have enough gas in while this person's talking, right? And so I got, it's a muscle, so I've gotten better over the years, yeah.
Beautiful. So you, are the questions you've been asking us, Tony, from Curious Questions?
Yeah, mainly.
Cool. So I want to hear more of your curious questions.
Yeah, well, he's got a list of them.
I'm so excited about this app you made.
Cool. You got to download it to play with your friends.
I did.
Fun.
I have downloaded it, and I love asking questions. So this is going to be exciting for me. I've been Googling different questions with different people and saying like fun questions to ask others. So having an app for it is obviously a lot more convenient.
It's good. Use the categories, because the categories really help you find the right questions for the right moment. Like we were at work and somebody's like, okay, so here's the question that came up. We're at work. Well, we're at the bar at least, so it's less, but it's still work people, right? And the question that came up is, have you ever masturbated at work? Okay, fine, it's raunchy maybe. Then don't pick the juicy category at work. Go this easy, or there's others.
That's where the juicy raunchy came from.
She just happened to, Well, what do you want?
Interesting.
So did you guys swipe past that one, or did everyone give an answer?
No, we went past that one. Thank God. Thank God.
That's funny. That's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
All right, maybe another question then. I'm gonna change it up. It was like, what's the hardest part about being in a relationship? What about that?
Hardest part about being in a relationship.
I got out of a relationship 2 days ago. And that was like my second try at that relationship. Yeah.
So you're the perfect person to ask, what's the hardest part? What's so hard you had to get out?
Oh man. After the chemicals, like the love chemicals that were there, wore down when we were interacting with each other, we ended up just being different in so many ways that we weren't anticipating, and our ability to communicate well died. So it ended up turning into something that was extremely toxic, perhaps the most toxic. Well, I mean, it like rivals like the most toxic relationship I'd been in prior to that, and I don't know. I honestly don't have many great things to say about it. I'm glad it's over. It was strange because this is one of my fighting partners. So we had nonverbal communication from like January of 2018, like over a year ago.
What do you mean you had nonverbal communications?
We didn't really talk. We just we would train martial arts together.
Oh, okay.
So we would be paired.
Partners.
Yeah. So we would always like fight each other with knives and sticks in Filipino martial arts, but we wouldn't talk about things. And then I was in another relationship then. And after that relationship ended around last September, one day, we were always the nerds that would like stay after training to train more. And so after that, one day it was just us, and I got hungry and I was like, I want to go get Thai food. And we ended up having a lot in common through our conversations. And I was going through a very sad period, and he was one of the only people that still was happy existing around me when I was sad. And that made me kind of like fall in love with him. And I really enjoyed being able to have such great conversations with him and communicate about lots of different emotions and things without him taking it personally. And so he got out of a relationship that he was in around the same time, and we got we were able to communicate so well, and it was like one of the most beautiful, healthy things I'd ever been in. And then I don't know what happened. It died. It like all turned around, and then it became one of the most toxic things. Probably like 4 months in for me. I mean, it didn't, but I couldn't figure out how to work with him after that point, and I was like prioritizing that and trying things, and I felt like nothing was working. And it was just a strange, volatile thing. Like things that were my triggers that he said he would never do, like scream at me, were happening. And then I would react emotionally, and I couldn't handle being screamed at. And then I'd try to like fix myself while also changing things so that he wouldn't want to do that. And it just, things just got more and more volatile, and it was awful. So very glad that that's been cut out.
Your question was, what's the hardest thing about being in a relationship?
Yeah, most difficult.
Communication.
What's the most
Communication.
difficult? Communication.
So what about you and your wife? What do you think makes your relationship successful? And how do you communicate?
You know, I've been with my wife now for almost close to 20 years. So maybe like,
that's amazing.
I don't know, like 18 maybe, something like that. So I think there's a couple of things that make it work. And I think there's basic compatibility. And I think you have to have basic compatibility. And I think what that means is that on some very fundamental level, things by your nature work. Because if fundamentally it doesn't work, oh my God, I think you're just going to run out of energy trying to make it work. And then once you run out of energy, it just all blows up big time. And so I think there's a basic compatibility, and I think it's probably very unique to the couple that, you know, different couples need different combinations of things to make them basically compatible. I think you need to have a basic worldview that's similar. Like, you know, I think for me, it's so important. I think one thing that works well for me and my wife, I think we both believe that I'm responsible for my stuff. What's happening in my life, it's really kind of like, on some very fundamental level, it's really kind of comes back to me in some way. And if you don't have that, mutually, that's difficult to kind of navigate. So there's that.
Will you please explain that again? I don't really understand.
So, there's people who believe that, like, I have this job, and it's a fucking, the reason why I have to have this job, okay, the reason why I have to have this job, because you want to make sure that that we have a nice car and we have a nice apartment to live in, and now I have to have this job, and I really don't want this job, but you kind of make me go and have this job. That's not right. That's not correct. You've basically kind of outsourced. I've attributed things to you that I can't, meaning you've made me go get a job. No, I've made me go get a job. I could have said no, I cannot, whatever. I didn't realize that. I basically have. I've not taken responsibility for the fact that no, I went to get this job. I made at some point a decision to do something that I really don't want to do, or I can't, or maybe we need to find a different way. But it's still my responsibility, and I'm not doing you a service by doing something that then I'll end up resenting you, or maybe then I'm going along with it for 2 weeks, and then I'm starting to become bitchy at you. But I maybe not even realize I've become bitchy at you because I feel like you make me do this job. But really, I need to realize that I'm basically refuse to take responsibility for what I'm doing. I've taken this job, so becoming aware, and it goes really deep. It goes really deep to where you have to get to a place where everything on some level is you're an actor in all of this. You're an important actor in all this. Of course, things happen, but you are the main actor in this, and you need to kind of. And if you don't believe that, then you basically become more and more powerless. Just like in this story, this made-up story here is I basically lose power because now I think you made me do this job. You made me go get this job. And so therefore I have no power because it's you, and I cannot make you, you do you and I do me. I cannot force you to do things. You can only change you, and I can only change me. So that's a fundamental, it's like a fundamental belief system that if you have that, then it's, and the other person has that, it's a big plus.
I love that.
So the foundation of both knowing that you are responsible, you're responsible for how you feel and your happiness, and that you guys are not responsible for each other's happiness. I shouldn't feel like I'm obligated to make sure that you're feeling a certain way. Like, you should be able to already do that on your own, and like, yeah, act upon it, and then you guys can just do it together naturally. So like, just having that common ground of knowing, okay, I'm in charge.
Like Jocko Willink's extreme ownership.
Yeah, I don't know if it's I don't like extreme because that sounds like we're doing some crazy business.
I love it.
Yeah, but this is one part, and then the other part, I think one thing is also important, especially if you've been together for a long time. You can't do everything together. Don't do everything together. Mm-hmm. You're gonna burn out. You have to maintain, and maybe that's even more a little bit of a responsibility for the women in a relationship, where maintain the things that you think are interested in, even if it's something that you can't do with your partner. Keep them going. This is really important because these build your own. You need to build your own thing, you know, and because then when you come together, you're like, oh, we can do stuff together now. Because if it's always together, it starts to go like, can you go do something else, you know? So maintain your own thing and then come back together, you know. So.
I'm so excited to have the opportunity now to just do it by myself and like build myself up more, because that was such a negative experience for me and such a drain on like my resources, that I feel very grateful for the opportunity to be in a better headspace and like building things without worrying about another person in my life that I felt like needed my care.
I think that's also harder when you're younger to go into a relationship because you haven't quite figured certain things out. You're not as solid in you like you know, because I'm older, I kind of really know I'm interested in this, I'm not interested in that. I can't change that. It won't change. It doesn't matter who I'm with. And it's very clear in my head. But of course, when I was in 20, I didn't know this. I had a couple of things that I'm interested in, and I'm not sure I'll do this. And it was much more fluid, and so therefore you don't know, and so it's a little bit more difficult. And of course, you need to kind of figure this out over time. And after a while, you're like, yeah, I like this. I like guys who are like this. I don't like guys who are like that. You get clear on that level too, you know. Whereas it's like, yeah, so it's gonna work. We'll just, you know. And then, of course, I think you need to be, I'm not sure I'm 100% right about this, but I have a feeling that if sex is no good, don't continue. I think there has to be, it's just a natural compatibility there. And because it's hard enough to maintain a good sex life over 20 years, that takes work. So if it's not compatible at first, wow, you're on an uphill battle. It's going to be an uphill battle. So abandon ship if it doesn't.
I have done that previously based on the sex life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though everything else seemed right, I just wanted there to be that connection too.
Yeah. It's such a powerful thing. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to wrap this guy up a little bit. Last question: what are some accomplishments you feel good about?
Accomplishes that I feel good about. Knowing that I love myself. Knowing that I'm more true to myself than I was 5 years ago. I was at a place where I felt like I wasn't being like loved for or cared for or had any sort of support, and I've always kind of had to been that person for myself. So I learned it the hard way. And I read some good books that, you know, uplifted me and make me feel more strong. So I can say that I'm proud of myself for knowing that I'm all that I am, like I'm all that I have. And as long as I love myself and I'm true to myself, then I'll be okay and I can go through life. So I love you. I love you. And I love you guys too. So yeah, that's what I'm proud of and accomplished.
That makes me happy. I love you back, and I have to love you happy yourself. Yay!
How about you, Talyn? What are the accomplishments that you are accomplishments that you're proud of?
Yeah, sure.
An accomplishment that I'm proud of. I feel very happy with myself knowing that I'm persistent and that I still love the same things I loved when I was younger. So it makes me happy to know that I feel like I've known myself for that long and that doesn't change, because I still get genuine joy from the same things that I got genuine joy from when I was 12. And that makes me feel good, like I'm still on the right path. And even though it's trying and difficult, I've been trying to do the same thing for 10 years. And I've had a lot of ups and downs and stressors, and I still always come back to the same thing. So that makes me joyful to know what I love and what makes me joyful. And I feel like that's a big accomplishment.
Cool. Yeah. I think one of my accomplishments that I'm proud of is that me and my wife, our home has become sort of like an island where people come and flock towards and find solace and find, kind of, it's a good place, and we're having great times. We're eating great food, and my younger daughter is here in LA, so she comes over with her boyfriend, and I get to meet her boyfriend, and we get to hang out, and we that community thing a lot of it has to do with my wife and I being very stable and good foundation for this thing that's happening. I really kind of dig that.
I think that we might need proof of the good food.
You want to yeah. All right, it's on. Yeah. Tony can organize. That's good. I'm in.
Cool.
Yeah, done.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to have experienced your energies and like the love that you have, and like the open energy and like funness of yourself. Thank you for sharing that. And then I'm also so grateful for you having this like stable, comfortable space and having the ability to kind of like work with lots of different energies and have that flow to help stabilize other environments and other people. That's so special. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
It's been a beautiful moment. Awesome.
Any other shout outs? Christian?
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Thanks,
We
Tony.
appreciate you.
Tony.
Tony's
You're the man.
Wonderful. Thanks for inviting us.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. We'll shut her down then.
Shut it